I just wanted to take a little bit better video of the arcade machine in action. Last time I just did it with my phone, it didn't come out that great, so I figured I'd show it a little bit with the GoPro in high frames per second mode. Hopefully this comes out good. I'm still learning how to use things on the GoPro, but thought I'd go over the setup a little bit here. So this is running Hyperspin on Windows 7. The internals are a Core 2 Duo 2.53 gigahertz on an Asus P5Q Pro motherboard. It's also running a 120 gig SSD. Originally I had started with a larger hard drive. The hard drive did not like being moved around as I went around with the cabinet, so we've replaced that. The button layout is still the originals. This was an NFL Blitz cabinet when I started. It has since been taken apart. I've repainted this. This is actually top acrylic. There's a sticker under this that I wasn't able to get off, but I've since redone this surface. It's actually a paint plus a polyacrylic surface treatment, so it's actually very nice and smooth, very durable. Same thing with the cabinet. The marquee has been replaced. Speaker here has been replaced. It was blown out, so that was fixed. Tweeter over here was okay. The screen surround stickers were peeled off, redone. As you can see, we've got Mr. Enderman. Gameplay instructions down here. The original reader, this was a Nintendo 64 reader for putting in Nintendo 64 memory cards from home. It has been swapped out for 2 USB ports, to then feed to a USB hub on the inside. That's for keyboard, mouse, additional controllers, anything like that. In terms of controls, 4 joysticks. The original joysticks that came with it were what are called 99-way. They're essentially analog joysticks which then feed to a custom board. I suspect why the unit was sold to me was probably because that custom board was blown out. Just looking at it, there were a large number of resistors on the board that looks like they'd sustained quite a large voltage spike and were damaged. Unfortunately, those joysticks are not easily compatible with normal joystick inputs. They need either an Arduino or another microcontroller in order to function properly. So those have been replaced with these, which are Suso HAP. They're 8-way joysticks. They're the nice clicky kind, micro switches. They're very comfortable. And then the buttons are standard micro switches as well. I decided to revamp the colors on the micro switches. I felt they weren't quite right. And then we've obviously put in 4-player start buttons. Additionally, in the coin slot, we've added 2 micro switches here, and these can be used as additional triggers. The original test and service buttons have also been wired up to function as usable buttons. Both coin illuminations were burnt out. Since these run on 12 volts anyway, I've since replaced those with LED modules, actually designed for cars, but they work just fine. Now, operation-wise, as I said, this is running Hyperspin, and I'm only using MAME. I'm not using any additional systems. I didn't feel that was necessary. Plus, the number of buttons available with the default NFL Blitz layout with only 3 buttons, player start and a joystick, does not play well with using games. Fighting games play okay, but anything past this, Super Nintendo, going all the way up to anything, even Genesis, which only has 3 buttons, I didn't want to necessarily make it so you could only play Sega games and Nintendo games. It would be a strange mix. Hyperspin does support those. I do have the ROMs and the videos, but we decided to go with arcade games only. So we're talking around 3,200 working ROMs, 3262 I believe was the total that worked. Nearly all have preview videos in Hyperspin, extra graphics, and as far as I can ascertain, all work at this point. It's running a very old version of MAME, which is 0.159, but it works fine. It's a little antiquated, but for my purposes, it's just fine. As you can see, the joysticks work just fine. A little loud, but they're behaving as you would expect in Hyperspin. We've also mapped the side buttons to do our different letters. So we can start with any game we want. Let's go to Z to start. Should be able to find the Zaxxon quite easily. Good old Zaxxon. See, the previews work just fine. I have the sound disabled for previews. It's very loud in Hyperspin, and I don't think it's strictly necessary. As you can see, we can scroll up, down in the game list, no problem there. I'm still experiencing a strange issue where if you use the favorites button, which is set up as yellow, it stops responding to all input. I haven't sorted that out. I expected something to do with the joystick mapping. You actually have to exit out of Hyperspin and tab back into it with a keyboard. So I try not to hit the favorites button at the moment until I have that fixed. Just get back. We can go to something a little bit more recognizable. Our T's. Everybody loves good old Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I believe number 2 is the 4-player version. Let's find out. This is 2-player UK, so we're going to use the escape sequence. Red, player 1. Try that again. This, I believe, 4-player, 89 Konami. Very good. Joystick. RAM-ROM check. All that looks good. The classic FBI, Winners Don't Use Drugs, gonna love that. Still looks good though. CRT is fully functional. I may add an amplifier at some point because it may need it. Now, insert coin. That's what these micro switches here are for, as you'll see. Player 1. Player 2. Then the last 2. 2, 3, 4. And then we can do
Hang on, Eagle.
the CRT is still very functional. Brightness is good, color symmetric. So, perfectly playable. Even the classic games seem to work fine. As long as we're here, we can grab Tapper. Looks good. Color test. There we go. Insert coin. One player start. Works just fine. Oops, I shake the button. Oh no, 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 no. Ah, there we go. Sometimes the 8-way joystick gets to be a bit of a problem, but it does work. Not so good at this one. Standing off to an angle here, so it's a little hard to see. We can skip all the way back. It'll even play most of the fighting game to QM. So I believe we've got a Marvel vs. Capcom in here that works just fine. Let's continue to find it. There we go. We've got Mortal Kombat there. That's good as well. But let's find Marvel vs. Capcom if we can. Here we go. So Marvel, oh, even better. Marvel Superheroes vs. Street Fighter. And for some reason, some of these have a preview video, some don't, but they're all supposed to. There we go. Looks pretty good. This is not Neo Geo based, but the Neo Geo based games run as well, so that's excellent. Works just fine. Drop coin in. We can do 2 players just easily. Looks like the buttons on this are mapped a little funky, but it does work. So really, all the games work amazingly well. I'm pretty happy with it. Got a little more work to do on the paint since this is MAMECRAFT. Got a plan to eventually add the actual pixelated tiles down here. Maybe do an overlay on the top, and then we're going to have some creeper on the side. A lot more painting and vinyl decals to get for that. But in terms of functionality, I think we're good. And as I continue to make progress on the paint job, I'll post more updates. I'm sure if you've been following the Ars Technica thread, you know about that part. But yeah, it's been fun, and I've got everything working pretty darn well at this point.